Good evening, y'all. What is it? 7:31 p.m. Wednesday, February 1st. Um, today was a pretty decent day. It's work wise. You know, um, the more I get into understanding what's happening here in New York City and across the globe, really, the more there that augments the more the augmented society, slowly, well, not even slowly anymore, they're letting it be known that they are watching me, and that you know they're basically calling me like a rat. They're calling me a snitch. One guy walked by saying they're going to get it all back in blood money, you know um or get it all back in blood. So at the end of the day, you know, you gotta realize that if no one says anything and they just keep going with this, then it's basically the same as like if no one were there to record what was happening in Auschwitz, or if no one was there to actually say something about how inhumane slavery really was, it would have just kept going. They would have just kept going. So me myself, I'm like, now that I'm aware of it, and I am understanding that they're not this is something that's not necessarily happening to, like, it's not happening to people who need correction in their life or anything like that. This is not happening to people who, well, and even for the parts that's supposed to be so-called social engineering and what you call it, and supposed to be you know helping someone's livelihood. It's not that at all, because if it was a corrective thing to basically help someone out of their situation, since they can't, like, let's just say, consciously make better decisions on their own. Because last I remember, I was doing pretty good on my own. I was doing pretty darn good on my own. I didn't need someone to basically tell me how to live my life and help me, get a better job or anything like that. I didn't ask for none of this. So when they call themselves trying to offer me an opportunity, first they wanted to use the V2K to try to intimidate me, and then say, oh, you're supposed to become a police officer, oh, you're supposed to become a police officer to protect our community, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, if if I never wanted to become a police officer, but then I just all of a sudden become a police officer because, you know, you and the rest of this so called society wants me to become a police officer, but I have no will intentions of becoming a police officer, then what does that say about me? If I have no will intentions of becoming a police officer, right? But then you, who are using technology and basically infiltrating, every facet of a person's life. Because once you're a remote neural monitor, you basically, everything that you experience within your five senses and more, whether it's your emotions or your memory, things of that sort, everything you experience is basically being infiltrated and exposed to not just the handlers, but also everyone who is already linked to this cloud server. They're basically viewing every facet of your life, and then they're like, "Oh, we're trying to offer you an opportunity to a better life." And I'm like, I never asked for your opportunity. I never asked for your opportunity. I never asked for your help. Um, and then on top of that, um, the fact that you're using technology in my organic body that I never consented to. Um, yeah, that's the whole point. Is how you gonna hack my body without my consent, and then tell me that you're offering me an opportunity after you basically use the very same technology to try to intimidate me by transmitting acoustic um voices into my auditory cortex using using frequencies, and then tell me in the statement that they use is we're going to shoot you in your sleep, you know. And then because I was, because I was basically what's the words, because I was basically, um for lack of better words, I was concerned that I was hearing transmitted voices into my auditory cortex, um, via radio frequencies, or pulse frequencies, into my auditory cortex. And I went to try to see if I could go to a hospital to see if I can get help from the medical industry. But then all they basically did was turn around and, say that, oh, maybe you're under stress because of the quarantine, or whatever the case may be. But just to find out that the medical industry is basically a part of the whole thing, and they're and the entire industry is basically geared to basically make anyone who ever says anything about these these acoustic transmissions, and to tell them, oh, they're schizophrenic, or oh, they maybe you're under facing depression or something like that, when there is proof of all acoustic transmissions through patents. There's proof of acoustic transmissions, and hell, you could look this stuff up on YouTube. There's people who can basically use transducers hooked from a device that can play audio, right? Connect the transducer like a flat transducer, place it on a regular foam plate, like a regular foam plate that you eat off. Place the transducer on a foam plate, and you could basically make sound project from a foam plate through the vibration coming off of the transducer. And you're telling me that if anyone is to say something about receiving these acoustic transmissions, and they go to a hospital wanting to get help for something that they should not be hearing in their mind. And then the fact that there's many former military and intelligence officers who basically been coming out for years talking about this stuff. How is it how is it that you're offering me an opportunity, right, to a better life, but you basically are taking away opportunities from people who have never done anything wrong to anyone else? Yeah, no, I reject that. I rebuke that, and I rebuke that in the name of Jesus, and I rebuke that, and by from the will of God, I rebuke all that. And then because you don't just give in to the intimidation tactics, because they're a secret society, they're global, their numbers are in the tens of millions, probably, who knows. um who knows how many of them it is worldwide, but and then you got all these tech companies out here that's just constantly growing and advancing their brain mapping and artificial intelligence um programmings and stuff like that. And you know and then after the fact, when you begin to, after you solidify yourself and rejecting all these forms of you know intimidations, or rejecting their offers to basically join the join the Sith. um, or reject their offers to join the cabal, or whatever the hell they are. They basically will then subject you to um, radiation exposure on levels that you normally wouldn't necessarily feel, because all of the radiation is being directed to you, um, especially, almost as if like they make your entire body more conductive to electricity than it's ever been before. And then on top of that, what they'll do is they will hack the basically they're like hacking the power grid of your home, and then they'll increase the energy that's pushed out in your home, or they'll increase the energy input into your home so that there's more electromagnetic radiation being produced in your home. And right now, um my mom, she's been targeted since the 80s, just from her own experience with, reporting, from reporting, sexual harassment at her, former employer back then. And now here they are all these years later, still harassing her. And then now me. um they're basically they're it's like the Nuremberg trials meant nothing. Basically, it's like the Nuremberg trials meant nothing. So now, and then on top of that, they have all these people who should actually be fighting back against this technology and whatnot, but instead what they did was find a way to actually, well, reward those who are willing to give up their autonomy, give up their privacy, give up their human rights, so that they can basically receive some form of, I guess, material payment, you know, to, well, I guess, benefit from, this, let's call it science experiment, because this is what they said through the V2K yesterday. They said, we told Chris it's a science experiment, so I'm like, yeah, that's what they told the Jews too when they were experimenting on them. It's a science experiment. Yeah, that's what they told them too. So, but I mean, here it is, 2023. MK Ultra did not die. It just got rebranded and put into a program where now more people are involved. And if you mention anything about this program of theirs, then they basically subject you to a torture spectrum of the experiment, because it's all a part of the experiment, by the global elites to so-called advance humanity, right? And I've been doing some more research on past civilizations, and how humanity had basically um, been using this very same technology for years. But where we got this information from, where we got this technology from, the intentions is from beings that are not even from this world. I mean, the Anunnaki. You could go all the way back to the Anunnaki, the Egyptians and their gods, and the Mayans and their gods, and there's so many civilizations from past histories that mention that these so-called mystical or godly beings came down to earth and gave mankind, or taught mankind, all these different things that supposedly advanced our civilizations and things of that sort. Now, but the problem is And every single one of those civilizations, every single one of them, you look back, you go back in history, do your research. Every single one of those civilizations in the past, right, that had all this advanced technology, they were doing all these things. They could, they had all this knowledge and blah blah blah. Every single one of those civilizations, where are they now? Where are they now? We're digging them up, or we're fishing them out of the ocean. You know why? Because when mankind was created, we were created to be a specific way. Mankind was created to be a specific way. And if you go back to the times of like fallen angels and things of that sort, these beings that came down and taught mankind everything that, supposedly advanced the species, um we literally we're digging our own grave when you think about it, because every single one of those civilizations, they're gone. They're gone. Like, you would think like why, like, if they, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. If we were supposed to have this technology, if we were supposed to, have all this infinite knowledge and things of that sort, right? Why is it being kept a secret? Because back then that technology wasn't secret. That technology wasn't secret to them. Think about it like this. Back then, in those times, of those ancient civilization times, the technology wasn't secret at all. Everybody living within that civilization knew about the technologies that were being used, right? They knew about it. Everybody knew about it. And you know what happened? Everyone was using the technology, flourishing, blah blah blah. But then at some point, um, several catastrophic things that were on like godly proportional scales happened and wiped those civilizations out. I mean, completely wiped them out. Whether it was plagues, whether it was, a great flood, whether it was earthquakes, whether it was volcanoes, whether it was, you know, meteors, whatever the case was, to the Spanish flu, whatever the case was, there was always some type of catastrophic event that wiped out those civilizations. And what left behind is what we're using. What they left behind is what we're using today. Everything under the sun is nothing new. Everything that happens on this planet is just going in a cycle. Different generation, same cycle. Different generation, same intentions. Every time mankind calls itself trying to advance itself farther than anything God ever intended for mankind to do, we end up wiping ourselves out. Every time we find ourselves trying to become more advanced species and everything like that, and then the more I read up on how like fallen angels or the Anunnaki or whatever came down and made it with human beings and created these more advanced off breeds, whether they're Nephilim or hybrid human beings, whatever, however you want to look at it. um the power, the creator finds out what's going on in his backyard and say, no, there's way too much going on here, so we need to bring equilibrium back to humanity. And, well, wipe them out. Just like literally wipe them out. And the next thing you know, some years, several decades or hundreds of years have to pass by. Then eventually, the technology gets found by some human, or maybe another, or maybe these beings, these outer worldly beings, come back down to Earth and then do the same thing all over again. Um, and as I'm saying is they just basically transmit, they force the frequency into my left ear. Every time that they're moving, every time that they're trying to do something to either like every time that you're trying to like do the right thing, where you're trying to expose their secrecy, or expose, not even expose, talk about the history of what they're doing, and they start to transmit, they start transmitting these infrasound frequencies into your ear. It sounds like tinnitus, but it's not even real tinnitus. It's basically them forcing a frequency that's carrying like data into your ear canal, and then your brain basically receives that data, and it well, it's basically your brain is being programmed. Like the data, it makes contact with your ear, your cochlea, then your auditory cortex processes it, because it's being transferred from it's being transformed from binary code into like a auditory signal that your brain can actually be able to decode, and then your brain is resonating with whatever the message that they're transmitting. And people don't seem to most people don't seem to understand that we are around signals and frequencies everywhere, so as long as your body is within the range of a some digital cell tower that's transmitting frequencies, or whether you're in the the interferometry zone of satellites, or maybe it could be drones or whatever, and basically they basically converge those points, like the heterodyne, or heterodyne, as I heard someone mention before. Um, Nick Begich. I like he's a heterodyne. That's how he says it. He says heterodyne. Nick Begich. Um, yeah, look up Nick Begich too. Nick Begich. Begich. This stuff is not secret. It's not secret at all. People don't realize they're a part of an experiment that they know nothing about the side effects to. Right now, they're basically being rewarded, and they're basically taking they don't realize there's not going to be no real end to this experiment until several people start dying off from the side effects of it. And if God is going to do exactly what I think he's going to do, most people, well, probably God will probably take out a huge portion of the global population before people even advance themselves in the way that they think that they're going to advance themselves. And right now we're actually in that time period where at some point we're going to see some type of event that's going to shake the very core of all of humanity once more. Um, hell, what we got? Astrologists, not astrologists, but what is it? Astrophysicists or something? I think they're called astrophysicists. They believe we're in the same time period of the Taurid meteor stream. Earth is now passing through what's called the Taurid meteor stream, and we should be on alert of possible meteors, because the last time Earth had crossed the Taurid meteor stream, the dinosaurs got wiped out. So I mean, for the most part, look, they're gonna do what they do. They wanna try to take me out, or they want to induce all this radiation in my home, so that my mother, she's 74 years old, and then she's a God-fearing woman. She basically she does she does her best to be an honest good person in this world. She does her best, and and when I say honest, I mean bluntly honest. She does not hold her tongue for nobody. She speaks her mind no matter what. She speaks her mind no matter what. And if you don't like it, she could care less. But as long as she feels like she was doing what's right and letting you know what is what, that's all that really matters to her. And before in the past, there was something commendable about that. Somebody who's willing to tell you the truth about yourself, whether you want to hear it or not. There used to be something commendable about that, but nowadays, no, it's people don't like knowing the truth about themselves. You know, so right now, I'm just like my mom. My mom is trying to recover her body and everything from the overexposure. Well, she doesn't realize it, but I've already been doing several readings in this apartment of the amount of radiation that is coming from the electronic device, and it's high, and it's ridiculously high. The amount of radiation that's coming from you know the apartment, it's ridiculously high. Like, this is the type of stuff that basically, like, you literally are growing cancers. You're literally growing cancer in your body from being exposed to this much radiation or dirty electricity. And I keep wondering to myself, like, so Con Ed doesn't care that they're basically working extra harder to maintain power grids, knowing that this technology is basically destroying the in our infrastructure. you know and I have another theory that this technology, these weapons, or at least the process in which they're using the weapons, is also having an effect on plumbing in buildings. So I'm thinking to myself, because um all of this stuff, I believe it's using not just only electricity, but it's also using the plumbing, because for whatever reason, and and this is interesting, because when I was living at 1490 Boone Avenue in the Bronx, right? On the first floor, I lived on the second floor. On the first floor, just under my apartment, was a daycare center, right? There was a daycare center down there. Now, this is going after my targeting started, right? After I didn't, rejected their whole after I rejected um their offer to join the NYPD, after going to the hospital trying to see if I can get help for these acoustic transmissions in my mind, into my mind. um all of a sudden, the maintenance guy comes upstairs and knocking on my door. He's like, yeah, we got a flooding downstairs in the daycare, and we want to know if we're trying to figure out where it's coming from, right? So I'm like, sure, go ahead. Now, as the guy comes in the apartment, he's checking. As the guy comes into the apartment, he's checking. He's running the sinks. Checking the pipes and everything under the sink, trying to see, where if there's a leak or something coming from somewhere. And then after he finishes checking the bathroom, he's like, "All right, it looks okay in here." As he walks out the door and turns left to go, I guess maybe he's going to the apartment next down the hallway or something. I could swear I heard him say, yeah, he's a snitch. So I'm just like, okay. This is in the beginning. This is probably like somewhere like November or December of 2020. Um Now that's that part, right? Now about I think it was about maybe 2 or 3 days ago. I wasn't here when they came, but apparently, here at my mother's house, this is a NYCHA complex, New York City Housing Authority, and apparently there was a flooding downstairs in in the apartment under us, right? But there's no one in that apartment. So when I wasn't here, she said NYCHA maintenance came and they noticed there's some flooding going on downstairs. Now, mind you, when I was living in my own apartment, I was living by myself. I don't be for the most part. I was home all the time, and I wasn't necessarily you know using a lot of water like that, so I don't know where floodings could be coming from. But mind you, I do also gotta mention this that during my targeting and the noise campaigns and everything like that, in my bathroom over there, in my bathroom, the tank behind the toilet bowl, the tank would be flushing by itself. Water in the bowl wouldn't actually go down, but the tank would make the sound as if you jiggled the handle, right? And then there was a time where because I would literally be sitting in the living room. I would be sitting in the living room watching TV, and I would have the bathroom door open. As I'm sitting in the living room watching TV, I would hear the tank almost as if like the water drained from the tank and then the water fills back up. You know that sound, like the water's filling back into the tank. The water would drain from the tank, or at least it would make the sound as if the water drained from the tank and then water would fill back into the tank. Next thing you know, there was one day I went to go and try to investigate what is this sound? Why I keep making this sound? Because if I'm not flushing the toilet, you shouldn't be hearing this sound if you're not flushing the toilet. So I go and I take the lid off, and then the sound stops, right? This is when I became consciously aware that whatever they're doing, it involves the plumbing or the pressure from it involves like the water pressure within the building's plumbing. I took the top off the tank and I set it on the seat, and I'm looking at the tank, right? I'm watching it because at this point I started timing how frequent that sound would happen, right? I started timing how frequent that sound would come, right? As I'm looking at the tank wasn't making that sound in the timing that I was, like doing when I'm sitting in the living room. When I'm standing right there looking at the tank, but it's not making that sound. So I'm just thinking to myself, okay, I leave the top off the tank and I go and sit back down in my living room. All of a sudden, the sound comes back on. So now I go back. Into and it's funny because they did it twice and 2 times in a row. It was like, and I'm like, what the hell? So I go back into the bathroom and I look into the tank. Now here I go. I touch this piece, right? and the piece felt loose. I touched this piece. It was like some type of tube with like a little thing on the top. And it was like, I guess it was on another part of the I don't really know plumbing like that, but anyway, this thing was loose. And then all of a sudden when they did the pressure thing again while I'm standing in front of the tank, the piece shoots up. Next thing you know, water started, started coming up and whatnot. It took me a minute to, like, get it all under control. Then I kind of thought pretty quickly to think, turn off the water from the knob behind the toilet bowl. But the water never left my bathroom. So now that's when I realized, I was like, okay. At that point, that's when I realized, all right, whatever they're doing with this technology, it involves the water pressure from the building plumbing. So then at that point, I started always leaving the water off on my toilet. Like, I would turn the water off. Like, the only time I would have the water on is when I actually have to use the bathroom. That's why I would have to go down, turn the water pressure back on, use the toilet, flush. Then when I'm done, turn the water pressure back off. Because if I didn't, they would just continuously keep, I guess they're pressurizing the water. They're using the water pressure to power their device, I guess. Now, funny thing is, here, the same sound continues to happen here. But I'm not noticing any, there hasn't been any flooding or anything, at least not in this apartment. But that same flushing sound, even though water wouldn't actually go down in the bowl, the water in the toilet bowl wouldn't actually go down. But in the tank, you would still hear that flushing and refilling sound, like water was basically, like you would still hear that flushing and then water refilling in the tank sound. You would still hear that here. Now, coming back to 3 days ago, they're like, oh, there's a flooding downstairs, and we wanted to check to make sure it's not coming from this apartment. So I'm like, okay. I wasn't here. My mother said they came and checked. So I'm like, all right. We don't have any plumbing problems in this apartment. Now, I don't know if they went upstairs and checked upstairs, like with the people above us, because in this building the plumbing is pretty much connected through, I think, let me see. I know the plumbing is connected to my next door neighbor. Like, I think they have said in the past that our plumbing is connected. And then, strangely enough, my mother and I was just talking about this a few minutes ago. Let's say our front door is here, right? There's kind of like a corridor, like a short little path where you walk to get into the apartment. And then, if you turn right, you're going towards bedrooms and the bathroom. And then if you turn left, you're going towards the kitchen. In this little corridor, about halfway from the front door, water keeps pooling from the wall. Water, but it's not like it's dripping down the wall, but water keeps pooling, like almost as if like it's coming from under the tile. And it keeps pooling about halfway between the front door and then the cross section, of the apartment. Water keeps pooling in that halfway point. Now, right now, I didn't mention anything that I know so far about, the water to, housing or whatever. I haven't mentioned anything yet. But I know one thing, I'm not gonna be accused of anything. So what I'm gonna do, luckily I have my experience, my experiences with my previous apartment. So, and then luckily, I also have done some other research where I found out that there is a way to conduct or use water to help conduct electricity, or use water in some facet or way, or the pressure of water to use certain type of electronic device. And every so often, as strange as this may sound, I would hear noises come from upstairs that sounds like someone manually pumping something, like like yeah, like I would hear this sound. And I've worked numerous types of jobs and projects, and seeing what it looks like when someone's like pumping water or pumping something. There's a particular sound that it makes. And every so often I would hear this sound as if something's like someone's pumping something real hard, like toot, 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 like you know the sound of something being pumped. So, yeah, and then my mom, she's 74 years old. She doesn't have a lot of money. She's disabled, and she's just trying to live out. She's just trying to live out her life. My mom, she's aware that she's being targeted, but she doesn't know the full extent of what is being done. Like she claims that she knows, but I don't think she really knows, because she spends more time trying to like ignore it, because she's like, I'm not giving the devil any more power than what he got. I get that. I completely get it. I completely get it. But me, I'm thinking to myself, just because it's happening doesn't mean it should be happening or it needs to continue to happen, right? So it's like, what they're basically saying, what the handlers through the V2K, what they're saying is, oh, he doesn't respect his mother, he doesn't care about his mother, he knows what he's doing, he knows he's talking about the secret society and whatever. He doesn't care that he's putting his mother in danger. He doesn't care. But the thing is, my mother already been was being targeted by the most likely by infiltrated. um Choose my words wisely. Let's just say her former employer was infiltrated by probably members of a secret society or whatever. So she's been targeted since the 80s. So now I'm thinking to myself, it doesn't matter if you stay quiet about this or not, because if you're already targeted, it's not like it's going to stop. It's not going to stop. If she's been going this many years of her targeting, what does it matter if you say something about what's happening to you? They're not going to stop what they're doing. They're not going to stop what they're doing. So it's like, why does it matter to not say something about it? Because if they're not going to stop, and she's been getting targeted since the 80s. So if they're not going to stop, why actually be quiet about it? The worst they can do is kill you or put you in prison for something that you didn't actually do. And if you have the spirit of God in you, if you have the spirit of God in you, and you have the wisdom of everything that has been told to us, and whether it's Christian, um biblical text, or it could be Quran or the Torah, whatever the case may be, those entities those godlike figures, those fallen angels, whatever, the Anunnaki, whatever you want to call them, they have offspring that are living in this world, and they are trying to maintain control over what they would call, um, I guess, Homo sapiens. Are we still considered Homo sapiens or humans? I don't even know, because what do you call regular human beings compared to transhumanists, or those who may be, offsprings of fallen angels or things of that sort, or offsprings of the Nephilim or whoever? What do you call them? You know, I don't know. What do you call them? But anyway, so yeah, but with the amount of radiation that's coming from this apartment, like, you see these lights going around the room. They're these lights are no bigger than that. They're like no bigger than that. They're like no bigger than, like, probably like half a centimeter. The light bulbs themselves are probably no bigger than half a centimeter. But yet, you ought to see the amount of radiation that comes off of these lights. They're no bigger than a centimeter, but yet there's so much radiation that comes from them, and that's before you even really get within like 4, 3 to 5 inches from the light bulb. You ought to see. Matter of fact, I'm gonna actually show you. Um, it's probably rare that you ever really get to see my hair like this. um, yeah, hold on. Let me show you. I'm glad I made this investment, though. My electromagnetic radiation tester. Okay. All right. See the lights? The threshold for um, electric radiation is 40 volts, 40 VM. I can never remember what the M stand for. And then for the bottom, the micro Tesla for magnetic radiation threshold will be 0.40, right? Now, watch. You see that? That's just one of those. So think about how much radiation I'm exposed to going all around the room. That's just the lights. That's just these lights. Imagine the radiation coming from the Wi-Fi router. Imagine the radiation coming from, hell, I don't have ceiling lights in my room, but there's ceiling lights in the kitchen and the dining area. Imagine the radiation coming from the lamps that's plugged into the wall. Imagine the radiation coming from the TV. And my mom, she has vision problems, so she's basically, like, partially blind and whatnot. So she needs the lights on. And it's like, you think about how much radiation she's exposed to, and I try to teach her as much as I can about electromagnetic radiation and the effects it has on the tissues in the body. And then I'm not even going to go into all the details about um, um, absorption rate by volume of radiation in the tissues of the body and the cells of the body. Because there's a certain amount, there is definitely a certain amount of radiation that the tissues and cells that the body can take before you really start to experience side effects of radiation poisoning. There's a certain amount of radiation that your body can absorb before you start to feel the effects of microwave sickness or radiation exposure. Right? There's a certain amount that your body will absorb before it starts to feel the side effects of radiation poisoning. Now, my mom, she's tired. She's tired. She's been fighting, you know, she's been fighting these dark forces for a long time. And I've already made my peace with, what is bound to happen at some point. And it also helps that I've come across other TIs who've told me their experiences, um, including this one TI who told me an experience about her father, who was basically killed with radiation. And hospital. And then when she was trying to get help from the hospitals weren't necessarily helping her with trying to help her father with um healing and I guess reducing um whatever cancers or whatever was in his body. And then I think she even told me about how she felt like something was orchestrated within the hospital that basically took his life. you know but this is the reality, though. This is the reality. you know this is the reality. And you know what, and if you read the Bible, if you read the Bible and you learn that nothing that they're doing is new. Nothing that they're doing is new. It's all always have been a part of this. What is that? What am I looking at? I don't know. Is that a star or is that a planet? Because it's not necessarily moving. Or is it moving? Is it moving? I don't know. Oh, wait. Is it moving? Where is it? I don't know. It's so distant, but yet it's. I don't know. But anyway, so it's like I'm. I have to do my part. I have to do my part because it's like if no one says anything, then just like in the Bible says, we are lamb going off to slaughter. Basically, we are lamb going off to slaughter. But then I also remember reading this one quote from it was in this book about the original Christians, and this one guy, I forgot his name, he said to some executioners back in the Greek Roman times, that basically hunted down original Christians, and how we were basically slaughtered in the Colosseums for other people's enjoyment. Don't that sound familiar? We were basically slaughtered in the Colosseums for other people's enjoyment. Whether it's from lions or being ripped apart or whatever. We were basically, the way original Christians were treated, we were basically like entertainment for all these people to watch us, basically be killed, right? And that's basically what's happening now. That's literally what's happening now. They're probably not killing us as fast because that would just raise too many red flags and whatnot. Because nowadays they have to do it in a sense that it would they have to make it look natural. They have to make it look natural. Because if too many people just started dying off too fast, then it would raise way too many red flags, and too many people would start asking questions, things of that sort. So they have to make it look secret. They have to make it look natural. And if you study the effects of radiation sickness on the human body or any living organism, because a lot of the experiments that they're conducting about, look, and as I'm talking about this, they just try to heterodyne me again. Now, most of the time, anytime they heterodyne you, first thing you notice is um if you're sensitive enough, the first thing you'll notice is like this pressurized blow. It's like a pressurized blow that goes right into the ear canal. It's like a sensation of pressure, like something pushing into your ear canal, and then you hear that high pitched tone. First is like a pressurized, like something's pushing into your ear canal, and then it's like forcing itself into your ear. Then you hear the high pitched tone go up. That's what they're basically trying to lie and say is tinnitus. That shit is not tinnitus. There are so many former NSA, former CIA, and former MI5 agents who can definitely verify that's not tinnitus. That is not tinnitus. They're transmitting they're transmitting things into your brain that were once in binary code, but then are now being, but as they travel in the air, they're basically moving as frequencies. It's not tinnitus. You are being programmed or tuned. I say you're being tuned. And what makes, what's even more interesting, in, I believe it was 1998, 1997, there's a movie called Dark City. There's a movie called Dark City. And in Dark City, long story short, is basically about this guy who wakes up in like a bathtub, and he has no memory of what happened prior. Then eventually he has no memory about who he is, things of that sort. But yet, for whatever reason, come to find out he's being accused of a murder, right? And now, fast forward, he basically comes to find out that at a certain time, I think it's like midnight or something like that. Um, Everybody in the entire city goes to sleep, and then next thing you know, these like creatures, these creatures that look like aliens or something like that, they come out and they start injecting things into people's minds, like they're extracting memories, and then they inject false memories, and then they also have this huge machine that basically changes the entire landscape of the city while everyone is asleep or knocked out, right? Then eventually, once all the tuning is done and they finish extracting and adding memories to these people's minds and whatnot, um a sound proceeds again. A sound happens like a dong. Next thing you know, everyone wakes up. But yet he's the only one that didn't go to sleep. And fast forward into the movie, come to realize, and it's funny because they actually mention in the movie, um, that he's not affected by the tuning. That's the word they use, is tuning. Remember, they put all this stuff in the TV shows and the movies. They put all this stuff. It's right in your face. It's not secret. It's right there. But if you're not looking for it, you're not going to notice it. You know. Anyway, so yeah, there's all this exposure there's all oh wait, I just thought about something. There's all this information out there, right? And yet people are choosing to remain ignorant. Well, yeah, there was a lot of things I was willing to ignore because I always kind of felt like as long as um I don't know, there's a lot of things that most things I choose to ignore because, when you look at the situation, more times than likely, both people in that situation invited themselves, or they knew what they were getting into for whatever to be happening to take place. They both knew what they were getting into. So it's much easier to ignore certain events when is it much easier to ignore certain events when you can tell both parties knew what they were getting into. But it's a whole different story when someone is being forced into something that they did not actually want to be a part of. And then at this point, they're trying to actually defend their right to free will so that they can actually live the life that they choose to live, because that's what God intended for us to basically have is free will. If they take away your free will, or you consent to them taking away your free will, then you're basically telling God you do not deserve a life after this earth, because that's all earth is. That's all earth really is at the end of the day. Just earth is merely just well earth is literally the battleground for all things light and dark, good, evil, um lies and truth. The earth is basically the battleground. um it's the middle ground between heaven and hell. Like earth is that middle point. That's why there's so much of a fight between balancing, how much, you know love and hate is in the world. That's why earth is in the middle between the realms. When you think about Jacob's ladder, there's all those different layers. There's all those different, levels of heaven, and there's all those different levels of hell, and earth is right in the middle. You know, and yeah. Um, Plus, on top of that, I can do bad all on my own. I'm not going to be coerced into committing more bad things that I wouldn't even do myself consciously. So why would I actually allow someone to direct me into doing more bad things to others? What, become a police officer so then what if they have a problem with someone, or even worse, if they want me to target someone who probably doesn't even deserve to be targeted, I would have to do it because, oh, well, they forced me to take this job. And even though I started living my life and making this so-called good money, you know um and I've been basically, doing everything they tell me, I'm supposed to just go ahead and just do what they tell me, right? Yeah, I don't know about all this. I don't know about all this. It didn't sit right with me from the beginning when the very first time that they used this technology on me. Like, at least one that I became fully aware that it's them, was that first dream manipulation when I was sleeping in my living room back when I was living in the Bronx. I was sleeping on my couch, and this figure, which actually is the handler himself, because after a while I figured out it's actually the guy who actually got me, in this program and got me all brain mapped and everything. um I couldn't speak and I couldn't move my bodies in the dream manipulation, but the only thing that woke me up from my dream manipulation was one word. The one word that I could actually think of and in the dream, not only was that one word, the thing that I thought, but it was the one word that my lips was able to fix and say in the dream. I said Jesus. I kid you not. I said Jesus, and it was like the snap of a fingers. I woke up from that dream so fast. Like it was almost as if 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 like I'm low key listening to outside conversation. I'm on the fourth floor. I'm like, and then my window's closed too. She talking loud. But anyway, cause I'm on the fourth floor, so I'm like, if I could hear you all the way up here, you talking loud. But anyway, yeah, I said Jesus, and like a snap of my fingers, I woke up, opened my eyes, and I just sat up on my couch. And the figure, the way his figure looked, his face was blurred out, but he had on like I think it was like blue jeans or some type of pants on, with a white tank top, slim built body, light skin, and his hair was basically sticking up like this, right? But he also had this vibrating black aura around his entire body. Like it was a black vibrating aura around his body. But his face was blurred out. And he had like raised his hand up like pointing at me while I was laying on a couch like this. And I'm laying on my couch and I couldn't move and I couldn't speak. Cause you think about it, like if you see somebody in your house, your first instinct is to jump up, but I couldn't move and I couldn't speak, right? But when he started to do like this, like he's like pointing at you like you're next. I was like I couldn't move and I couldn't speak, but the only thing that I could the only and it was I kid you not, this is God, I tell you, this is God. This is God in Christ working in unison to communicate with me. When I thought the word, as soon as I started to think the word Jesus, my mouth was actually moving to say Jesus. Like I thought and was about to say, as soon as I thought the word J as soon as I thought the letter J, my mouth started to say J, and then it's just like Jesus, and I just woke up simultaneously, just snapping my fingers. I woke up. That's when I realized I was like, yo, I sat up on my couch. I was sitting, I just sat just like this. And I was like, my spirit is under attack. Now, I was never really a religious person, but I was always spiritually connected to God. I always felt that. Never doubted the existence of God ever in my life. I grew up, I like as a kid, I grew up going to church. That's mostly because, your parents make you go to church. My mom, she used to make me go to church every so often, whatever. But then as I got older, I kind of stopped going to church, because I don't know. I started seeing things in church that didn't feel right, so I stopped going to church. And you know I understand now why Jesus flipped over that table in the temple. I understand why Jesus flipped over that table. So yeah. And there's also some other things that I've been reading to basically understand why um Christianity, as we're looking at it right now in our world, or in our time period, it's not what Jesus intended anyway. I mean, even Jesus said it himself, don't worship me, worship the Father. So, you know, yeah, I don't know. I mean, and they could feel all these people that's working with these Satanists, and these working with these fallen angel descendants or whatever. They could take this however they want, because I know they're listening. They're always listening. I mean, plus I'm being remote neural monitored, so they're the cloud server is basically streaming me make this video anyway. Um, So I'm just like, yo, yeah, any of those law enforcers, doctors, wherever you are in your walk of life, if you're watching this and you calling yourself a Christian, you're calling yourself a Muslim, or whatever, if you believe in God and you're watching this and you know it's happening, I'm gonna tell you right now, your soul is not safe. Your soul is not safe. Right now, you're living in your flesh body. There's a reason why they're doing everything so much to try to see if they can get people to live longer lives. And instead of actually changing how we live in this world, instead of actually changing our ways of living so that we can be more connected to the earth, so then we actually could, if you think about it, the more natural you live, the longer you live. People never realize that the more natural you live, the longer you actually live. The more of a natural environment you live in, the longer you live. So, you eat healthier, you live longer. If your environment is healthier, you live longer. But everything that we've been doing, especially when it comes to the advancement of technology and the increase of electronic devices all around us, haven't you noticed that our lifespans have been shortening? Haven't you noticed that cancers have been like the cancer diagnosis have been growing? People with cognitive or mental impairments and stuff like that, especially right after they're born, has been increasing. Infertility rates, infertility rates increasing. All these different things. People having strokes, heart attacks, and these are healthy people. I'm not talking about the ones who are drinking and smoking. I'm talking about the healthy people who are basically dying from strokes, heart attacks, brain aneurysms, whatever the case may be, respiratory problems. That's because of all of the devices and technology and stuff around us. It's creating more rate. We're basically overloading our bodies with radiation. We're overloading our bodies with radiation. And then what they're doing, and this is the setup. This is the best part of the setup. They're increasing the radiation in our environment, right? And in order for you to survive, they're going to change your DNA. They're going to change how you are naturally born into the world. They're going to change how God made you to be naturally connected to the earth and the universe so that you can actually live, supposed to live longer in a more radiated environment than that doesn't agree with the earth and the universe. If you ask me, if you ask me, the reason why so much is happening on the earth at the to the very core, I'm talking about the inner core, is because this technology is throwing off the earth's natural electromagnetic you know uh uh well, it's natural electromagnetic field. And um for the most part, we're not even we're not even realizing that all of these supercomputers, all this technology, it gives off a carbon footprint too. Not just only factories and car emission, car um or the carbon emission from cars and factories and stuff like that. Electricity is giving off electricity is actually like these devices and these supercomputers and all these other things, they're giving off energies that don't agree with the earth too. So that's a whole nother thing you have to realize. And then also you got to remember, all of these frequencies that's traveling in the air and whatnot, they're carrying energy, they're carrying heat too. The earth is not just warming based off of the smog and stuff like that. The earth is also warming because of the energy that's being carried in the waves everywhere you go. That is also warming the earth too. But I guess we're going to wait until we see this whole catastrophic event take place and then realize, damn, we should have did something 20, 30, 40 years ago when we had the chance. Oh well, I'm saying it now. Just like several other, scientists who are being, basically being quieted, and several other doctors who have been doing studies of electromagnetic radiation on living organisms. I'm saying something too. So who knows? Years from now, we're gonna look. Someone's probably gonna look back and find these videos and realize, wow, this person really was trying to these people were really trying to let us know about what I mean. And I'm telling you, I feel so certain about this. I'm getting goosebumps, and every time I talk like this, they start attacking me with whether it's heterodyne, whether it's with heterodyning or they're basically beaming, certain, whether they're beaming their sensors on my brain, trying to see if they can, you know, destroy my thought processing or whatever the case may be, whatever. Just like our ancestors who have basically been recording these catastrophic events in whether it's in stone or in writing, whatever the case may be, we're going to end up doing the same thing. All of us who are actually, trying to expose what's happening, we are recording everything that is basically happening. We're recording everything right now. And then once the catastrophic event happens, we're going to connect it to everything that's happening right now. We're going to connect that event to everything what we've been talking about. We're going to connect it. And then something's going to happen to a large portion of humanity. And then those who God chooses to survive that event, God will then have them tell the story of how mankind basically was. Now they did the right here. God is going to allow whoever he chooses to survive that outcome to tell the story of how mankind was infiltrated by these outer worldly beings who tried to make us more advanced than what we were supposed to be, and how God basically, made us, well, reset. I can't talk like this if I didn't read all of this stuff. All of this I read. I read. And this is coming from scholars. This is coming from doctors. This is coming from, archaeologists, bibli, biblical historians and stuff like that. It's not like this is not opinion. This is damn near facts. This is about 90, at least 93% facts. So it's only but a matter of time though. They basically call themselves trying to well, what they're saying is what the handlers are saying is, I am messing with people's livelihoods. In actuality, I am actually trying to do my part in saving humanity. Humanity. I mean, the human beings who aren't buying into the whole augmenting yourself so that you can survive the amount of radiation they're putting into our body. No, I am speaking on behalf of the human beings who are trying to be as closely connected to the earth and the universe as possible. I am speaking on behalf of us. original human beings, those of us who want to remain connected to the earth. Because everyone else who's basically connecting themselves to a cloud server and connecting themselves to AI and connecting themselves to all these electronic devices, their days are so numbered, they are too full and drunk on arrogance and greed to even realize there's a death date waiting for them. I mean, well, no, we all have a death date, but it's the death date I'm talking about is the death date of your soul, really. It's the death date of your soul. Because once you leave your physical body, that doesn't mean that your existence is gone. You have you have a spiritual body within your flesh. There's a reason why they say that when we are formed from the energy that's flowing throughout the universe. You know, there's a reason why our body is basically running on a natural form of electricity. That is because the light that we are born with is derived from God, right? The light we are born with is derived from God. And what they're doing is using technology to infect the innermost layer of your godly light body. They're using technology to infect the innermost layer of your light body being so they can manipulate you and make you into a slave for their purposes. It felt good to say all this. Yeah. And my mother, she wants me to she doesn't, I mean, I understand she's tired. She doesn't, she's tired. She doesn't have the energy to want to fight no more. She's just trying to live out her days. But the thing is, and then plus on top of that, she also had that ordeal that happened in December of 2021, where they basically tried to kill her. They basically tried to kill her, had her put into the hospital, had all those doctors and nurses basically trying to subdue her into a state where she could possibly, you know, if she were to allow herself to mentally fall into that collapsing state of, you know, realizing of thinking that you're dying and you're going to die and stuff like that, she probably would have died. But God had a whole totally different plan for her, you know. Yeah, God had a totally different plan for her. And me and my mother, we speak about this all the time. Every so often, we mention, we're like, "Yo, you know, the devil was really trying to take you out, man." And I remember when I was here, I was here in the house by myself while she was in the hospital. It was Coney Island Hospital. I remember one of the doctors or nurses had called me, and this was the day after they had stopped allowing visitors to come to the hospital, right? The day after, and I had just seen my mother the day before. The day after, they had called me and said they have to stop allowing people to come and visit, you know, people in the um was it? Let me see. Was it in December of 2021? I think it was December of 2021. Yeah, it was December of 2021. Going into January um of 2022, when they basically called me and was like, "Yeah, it's not looking good for your mother. She looks like she's not gonna make it. You should call her and you know, just get you know, say her goodbyes or whatever." And I was just like, I just seen her yesterday, and she looked like she was doing better. And I remember hearing, you know, my mother calling me at times, and look, now they're coming after my brain, you know, on a whole totally different level right now, because what I'm saying is all the truth. So now Plus, I'm dropping names of hospitals and stuff like that. And you know what? To tell you the truth, most of these hospitals here in New York City are riddled with these transhumanists. Um, yeah, they're riddled with these transhumanists. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, they had me, or they tried to make me fall into that state of fear. They tried to make me fall into that mental state of fear, where I would think that, oh, my mother's about to die, da da da. I was not falling for it because I already did my research and I've already learned about other TI's experiences and things of that sort. I already kind of had an idea or knew what can happen into the future, so I made my peace with it. But I also was doing a lot of reading of the Bible and reading of conscious manifestation and things of that sort. And I realized, I was like, no, I am not going to let the spirit of fear rule over my life. So I rejected it, and my mother also rejected it, because I remember actually, I think I don't know how soon after, but at some point, I think my mother had called me while she was in the hospital. She managed to call me, and I was like, "Mom, you all right?" She was like, "Yeah, I'm all right in here." And I was like, "Yeah, the doctor tried to tell me that you weren't gonna make it." She was like, "Yeah, because they doing something in here. Luckily, this," and then me and her, we always get tickled by it. She said, "Luckily, because they done took my Bible away from me. They done took stuff away from me. So luckily, this Jewish guy was walking around the hospital, and I just happened to ask him. I was like, 'Do you have a Bible?' And apparently, the guy actually gave her a Bible." And she was like, "Thank you so much." And she said that he actually prayed for her, because I guess they had like, you know they, how they have like some people, like religious leaders, or people go around hospitals praying for others, as they're like, I guess praying for people to either overcome um their fears, or to get well, um or if they're like, close to death, you want to at least be prayed for. But he was there and he gave her a Bible and also prayed for her. Fast forward, I don't know if you could hear her in the background over the music. She's sitting right up in here. And they tried to make me believe my mother was dying. Yeah. Now my mother, she's like, she wants me to, she doesn't really want me to, be doing what I'm doing, because I mean, right now, if she was younger and had the energy as she used to do, and the body that she used to have when she was younger, she probably wouldn't be saying what she's saying. But now she's just tired. She's tired. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, it's all right. You've been fighting. You've been fighting for a long time. You've been fighting for a very long time. So I made my peace with it. But for myself, I'm not just fighting for me and her, but I'm also fighting for all of you. I'm also doing everything that I can to expose it for all of you who are being targeted, even the Havana syndrome. Even if you are a former intelligence agent or whatever, you it if I don't even know how much of them actually don't really know what's going on. I'm finding that very hard to believe, that these intelligence agents um who are former, NSA, CIA, all these different people, former Marines and stuff like that. I find it hard to believe that they don't know what's happening to them. I find that extremely hard to believe. You know, but anyway, yeah, yeah. So, I don't know. Um, I gotta do my due diligence to be a light bearer for God. And I haven't felt not one inkling in my body that's telling me I'm doing the wrong thing. I haven't felt not one inkling in my body telling me that I'm doing the wrong thing. And God chooses specific people in this world to live out certain things, and if you have a particular vibration about you, if you have a particular, I mean, God knows every detail of your life, every intention. God knows your heart, everything. I have been carried through this ordeal for like over 2 years now. I've been carried through it, and I've been learning so many natural ways of overcoming everything that's happening to me. And I've been learning in ways that I like it just comes so natural, so naturally. I may not be able to articulate what I'm doing, but at some point, as I continue to have patience and I continue to study and read about, you know, whether it's past civilizations, or I continue to read about, the understanding of energy shock of the energy chakras. When you think about like Eastern understandings of the human body and human spirit, understanding the manifestation powers of like Christ and things of that stuff. I know I'm on the right path. But I also know the enemy is going to use everything in their power, every resource in their power to basically try to like stop me from being exactly who God made me to be since I was born into this world. So, you know what? If God allows my enemies to take me, then that means God is sparing me from what's to come in the future. And that's actually the best way to look at it. If God allows me to be taken, just like every other most influential and powerful leader and human rights activist that's ever walked this earth and has been taken out by this dark society, um, I am in the company of really great, amazing energy. I am in the company of such amazing people, amazing human beings. I am in such great company. So whether it be me, whether it be my mother, or whoever is resonant with the earth and the universe, we are in great company. So regardless of what they do to us, keep doing the right thing, because we have two bodies. We have two bodies. We have this flesh body that is supposed to take on everything that is of this world. This flesh body is just a vessel. This flesh body is just a vessel. This flesh body is supposed to feel pain. This flesh body is supposed to experience everything that's of this world. We are supposed to feel everything of this world because that's what this body is made for. It's the spiritual body. It's the spiritual body that is actually going to be fully, um, judged in a sense. I mean, we're being judged based on our intent, or we're being judged on our vibrational levels, right? What am I trying to say? Yeah, I mean, just like I said, that we Earth is literally the battleground between light and dark, good, evil, good, bad. They always say they always say that, like, there's never really a gray area. There's never really a gray area. It's either good or bad, life or death, light and dark. There's never really a gray area. There's never really a gray area. So and they're all basically saying that, the only ones who's basically telling me that I'm doing the wrong thing are the ones who's basically profiting off of the death of innocent people, the destruction and sabotaging of innocent people. Those are the only ones who are actually telling me that I'm doing something wrong, are the ones who's actually profiting off of the slaughter of genuinely good people. It's the ones who are profiting off of the slaughter of good people who are telling me that I'm doing something wrong. Snakes or serpents. Serpents in the garden. There's a serpent in God's garden. There's a serpent here on earth, or rather, there's a beast, beast technology here on earth that is basically trying to steer people away from God. Like I said, I can do bad all on my own. I don't need someone to basically steer me into doing bad things. I make my own conscious decision to do something bad. And right now they have a sensor being, they have a frequency beamed at my heart. And the angle it's coming from, yeah, it's coming from behind me, like in this angle. That's not even music I'm hearing now. That just sounds like a very, very angry conversation. But like I told you, people are always listening anyway. These walls are thin. Anyway, yeah, that's all I got for tonight. Feel like I said a lot, but I think I said exactly what needed to be said. Do your research, and always remember, protect your peace. Don't fear anything that you don't fear anything, because if you have done your research, you already know what they're capable of. You already know what they're willing to do in order to secure their control, their intent, their power over the world. But you should already know too that your flesh body is literally only a hindrance of what your light body can actually do, more than what your flesh body can do. They're like, the whole city is upset with me. The whole city is coming after me, blah blah blah. And I'm just like, well, what do you say about the people who's been targeted for 15, 20 years? Whatever. Take life one breath, one thought, one step, one day at a time. Peace.